Hello and welcome to my studio. I'm printmaker Sherrie York. I am originally from Colorado. I grew up there, spent most of my life there, and a couple of years ago I moved to the coast of Maine because I was ready to expand my horizons and get to know a new environment and some new inspirations. I was supposed to travel back home to Colorado in the last couple of weeks, and while I was there, I was scheduled to give a program and a demonstration at Encore Logos Gallery in Basalt, which carries my work. But because of the current global health crisis and the travel restrictions, I'm not able to be there. I'm still here in Maine. So we thought that it might be fun for me to show you around and show you my process, at least virtually, if we can't do it together. I got started in linoleum block printing, boy, more than 25 years ago. It's kind of scary. But I got started with it because it was something that was really inexpensive, really simple to get started with. It didn't require a lot of tools or equipment. In fact, all you really need is some linoleum. I'm using the unmounted kind now, so just the thin, traditional battleship gray linoleum. You need something to carve an image into the linoleum, so we just use some small gouges. You need some ink to print with. You need to roll that ink out onto a flat surface and then onto your block. We use a tool called a brayer for that. You need some paper to print on. And then all you really need to print is a spoon. And until probably 5, maybe 6, but I think just 5 years ago, all of my prints were done with a spoon. A few years ago, I did invest in this press, which will feature prominently in our demonstration today. But as I said, until I got the press, I did everything by hand. I think of myself as a compulsive wanderer, not an adventurer particularly. I do like to keep my feet firmly on the ground and move at a steady pace. But when I'm wandering, I'm almost always carrying a sketchbook and or a camera. And the things that I discover, the experiences that I have, the creatures that I see, I do a lot of wildlife imagery in my work. Those little things that I collect on my walks invariably become inspiration for my work. Today I thought I'd walk you through the process of making a small reduction linocut of Columbine. For this image, I'm starting with a sketch I made. I decided to focus just on the blooms and not include the stems this time, although as you'll see, what portion of the stems I do include will, I hope, be an interesting part of the overall composition. Once I settled on that composition, I transferred the drawing to a piece of unmounted linoleum. Keep in mind that whatever I draw on the block will be reversed when printed onto paper. Since I'm creating a reduction print, all of the colors in my image are going to be printed from this one piece of linoleum. At each stage, I will remove more material, reducing the printable surface of the block, hence the term reduction print. I begin by carving away any areas which I wish to have appear white, or the color of the paper I'm using. Unlike drawing or painting, I'm not adding marks to a surface, I'm taking them away. I'm thinking about the spaces around shapes. I'm thinking about the negative space. The columbine that are the subject of this linocut have 5 white petals, and one of the unopened buds also shows some white. I've also decided to let the flowers break through a sort of frame that I've made in the background, so the outside edges of the block also need to be removed. Here's the block at the end of the first carving stage. And now it's time to print. The first color will be a very pale, transparent lavender color that will create some subtle shadows in the white petals and also be the base of the longer lavender petals. It can sometimes take a while to find just the right color, and once I have it, I have to be certain that I've mixed enough ink for every print. The reduction process doesn't allow for going back because essentially I'm destroying the block at each stage. So I have to start by printing on more sheets of paper than I ultimately want to print, since I'll need extras for color tests and the inevitable mistakes. In this case, I'm starting with 22 sheets of paper. I roll ink onto the surface of the block using a brayer or roller. I'm aiming for a smooth, even coating of ink applied as thinly as possible. Too thick, and the ink could fill in any fine carved lines. Once the block is inked, I place it in a registration jig. This will help me to line up the block and the paper in the same way every time, which is crucial to a consistent addition of prints and a clean, crisp image. In this case, my jig is a piece of mat board with a hole cut in the center that is the same size as my block. I have placed metal pins at one end of the mat board and affixed mylar tabs to the back of each sheet of paper. The tabs fit snugly over the pins, keeping the paper lined up in the same place each time as it goes through the press. Once the paper is in place, I lay down a piece of newsprint, both to protect the print paper and to provide a little bit of cushioning. Then I place a stiff mat over everything. This will protect the press roller from the metal pins, and it will create firm contact between the paper and the inked block. And then the whole stack goes through the press. In this clip, it appears that the press roller is moving, but the camera is sitting on the press bed, so it's moving across with the paper and linoleum block sandwich. The roller actually stays in one place. It's the press bed that moves. Once everything has been rolled through the press, I take apart the sandwich and carefully remove the print. That's the first of 22, of course, so now I have to repeat the inking and printing 21 more times before I can go on to the next step. After I printed all 22 sheets of paper, I clean off the block, and now I carve away those areas of the image that I want to remain the pale lavender color I just printed. Because remember, what's carved away does not print. So if I want to preserve this color, I have to take material out of the block. And here's the block with a little more material taken away. It's stained with yellow, well, because I didn't remember to take this photo until after I had already printed the second color, which was yellow. I'm going to complicate things here a little bit already by doing something called spot inking. I have an issue of color influence that I need to consider. As I layer colors, they will influence each other. I have to print the yellow now, because if I wait until I have more lavender on the block, I won't get a clear yellow. But if I print yellow over the entire block, it will prevent me from being able to create more bright, clean lavender areas. Since I only need this color in the centers of 2 flowers, I can roll ink in just those areas, and then use a newsprint mask to contain it even more. I put down this newsprint mask between the block and the print, and then roll it through the press as usual. When it comes out, voila! Take off the newsprint and there's only yellow in the places where I want it. Again, I have to do this step 22 times before I can clean off the block, carve some more, and then go back to printing lavender. Everything should be a bit more straightforward now, at least for the next few color passes, which are increasingly darker values of the lavender. In between stages, I hang the prints to dry. If they're too wet, when I go on to print the next color, the prints can smudge or, worse, pull up the previously printed ink off of the prints and make a big mess. Here's a look at steps 4, 5, and 6. At each stage, I carved a little more material from the block and printed successively darker values of the lavender color. At the end of step 6, I was happy with the image and how cohesive it all felt, but I knew this was about to change. These blooms are going to be against a background with many different greens, which means somehow I have to counter all this lavender. It's impossible to get back to pure white in the background, even if I use a straight white ink over the entire block. I also don't want the value of the background to get any darker just yet, so I want to try to mix a color that's opaque enough to counter the lavender and still be light. I used a lot of opaque white and a touch of green to mix up this pale, sort of pistachio ice cream color. I was fairly certain this was not how the color would look on the print, but I hoped it would at least move things in the right direction. Does this look green to you? No, it doesn't look green to me either. I did expect the interaction of the lavender and green would create a gray, but I was a little alarmed that it was still so dark, even though I'd put so much white in the ink that I was using to print. I went ahead and pulled all 22 prints with this color and hoped it would look better in the morning. Nope. By light of day, it was clear that I had reached what we call, in highly technical printmaking terms, the dreaded ugly duckling stage. This is the point at which reduction printing can become a bit of a high wire act. It's hard to envision the final product, and as I move forward, I might lose balance entirely and the print will fail. It can be tempting to walk away and start over at this point, but if nothing else, I'm stubborn, so I'm going to keep pushing ahead until I either get it right or I make a complete mess of it. So the next color was again a very opaque pale green, and this time I got something that reads as green. But there's a new problem. Look how washed out the blooms seem to be now. Have I made them entirely too pale from the beginning? If so, I am in real trouble, because remember, all of the block surface that created the flower petals has been carved completely away by now. At this point, the prints were very wet. Opaque colors can take longer to dry, so I had to look at these questionable prints on the drying rack for a couple of days before I could apply the next color pass and see if I was going to be able to make things work out. But dry they did, and I decided that it was time to just go for the bold. I'd done a little bit more carving on the block, and I decided it could be interesting to create a graduated or blended ink roll for the background. Mixed up a mid-value green and a lighter, very bright green, and rolled them side by side, letting them blend in the middle with the brayer. As I've done at every stage, I ink the block, set it in the registration jig, layer paper and stiff mat, and run it through the press. And this time, phew, what a relief! No pun intended. That looks just right. The blooms no longer look washed out, and the greens are looking rich. Let's print this 21 more times, and then it's back to carving, of course. All the material has been removed from the area of the blooms, but I also want to preserve some of that bright green in the lower part of the image. So I'll take most of that away, leaving the stems for contrast. What step are we on now? I've lost track. I think this must be color pass number 10, another blended roll. Now the stems are showing clearly, and I'm getting a little interesting texture going in the background. Step 11. Will this be the last one? I inked another blended roll, this time a blue-black to darker green. Well, we're seeing some nice drama now, but is it quite enough? While the prints were drying, I went ahead and carved for a 12th color pass. I had some room to experiment because by this time I had 4 testers to work with. A tester is what I call a print that has developed a flaw at some point in the process up to this stage. I marked these flawed prints and moved them to the front of the printing queue, so they are the first ones I use to test colors on subsequent passes. If I try one more color on one of the test prints and I hate it, at least I won't have lost any more. No blended roll this time, just a rich, transparent, olivey green over the entire block, which, as you can see here, doesn't have a lot of printable surface left on it. Was this a good decision? Yes, it's just right. Now, I believe the print is definitely finished. Let's take a look one more time at the evolution of all the steps. So, thanks for coming along with me on this particular walk through the process of reduction linocut. I hope that I've maybe answered a few of your questions today, or at least piqued your interest to find out a little bit more. We've barely touched the surface today of what's possible in this really exciting and I think very accessible medium. Thanks again for spending some time with me, and feel free to reach out if you have any other questions. Thanks.